Alrighty, welcome to the beautiful Portsea Quarantine Station, Point Nepean National Park. This place is absolutely jam-packed with history dating back to the traditional custodians of this land, the Bunurong Bunurong people. Obviously like to pay respects to them, and also going back to obviously the quarantine station, things of the war, refugees in 1998, heaps and heaps of stuff. I'm going to stop off at certain highlight points, beautiful locations, talk about a few things, and ride through it on a trusty little e-bike here. Alrighty, our beautiful starting location. I just want to talk a little bit of how Portsea Quarantine Station actually operated. Now, obviously it's a quarantine station, so people who were sick came and landed here. What happened was, when they came through the heads, which I'll talk about more in detail later, they'd land on their ship just over there, and they would come and walk through these offices, give their names, come to the hospitals, hospital 1, 2, 3, get there if they're sick. And this red building here was our cleaning station. Now, there's more cleaning in this building here, but what I really wanted to talk about is mainly in this beautiful red building here. It's really, really cool. Come through here, it's gonna get slightly echoey, but this is where all the luggage, earthly possessions, everything you can imagine would come through, and they'd actually go on a roller onto these little stations, I suppose, and it'd be a massive steam room, really, really high powered. Excuse the echo here. Walk through the steam, blast it like really, really full on. And the idea back when this quarantine station was operational was that the steam, the heat and the moisture would kill all of the bacteria. Now, later on, we obviously learnt that bacteria loves heat and moisture, so it obviously didn't do very much at all. But the idea was, roll through here, come along here, another cleaning station, and it'd roll through into the next thing where they'd wipe it down. Things of that nature. Anything that couldn't come through the the steam room, would be cleaned here, and just general office space, workbench, and then anything that was deemed still not clean from that steam station would be put into this incinerator furnace thing, the boiler. You can see all of this would be absolutely ripping hot. And you can see old little burning stations where they just absolutely burn everything. They were pretty cutthroat and ruthless with how they did it all. And it was a massive, massive operation. This is the bed or the bottom of this massive steam chimney that bellowed out all types of stuff. It's a really good location to get a really good image of how this all looked. And I'll try and get a nice little... There it is. Alrighty, I'm sort of at the brink of the quarantine station now. We can sort of imagine more and more hospitals. This is the main hospital here with the kitchen and the office buildings, with these little scattered buildings here for various uses. But it also continues on onto Jarman Oval here. Now, this is a massive, massive oval. It's hard to get it into the video, but this is about the size of 3 or 4, possibly even 5 football pitches. And it's massive, massive scale. It had heaps of uses. It was used for quarantining cattle, any half-killed animals that come here. They obviously didn't want to spread things like mad cow disease. And it was even used as the parade grounds for World War I and World War II, and then used for sport in more recent times for things like polo and even a couple of music festivals back in this day. Welcome to our very scenic next location. Our quarantine station where we started is just over that way. I'm more focusing on the World War I, World War II side of things now. This is Cheviot Hill Lookout. It's called Cheviot Hill because back in 1886, the SS Cheviot crashed out here. Now, not much is known about that besides it crashed around the ground and then therefore became the SS Cheviot. But this beach is also famous for a very different and very interesting reason. We had a Prime Minister go missing, go swimming, never returned. His name was Harold Holt. He was Prime Minister from 1966 to 1967, and he went swimming out here, as he often did actually. He was a very common snorkeler and spear fisherman. Came out here one day with his mate. He wasn't even alone. He said, my mate, I'm gonna go down, gonna spear fish, gonna go down for a duck dive. Went down just out there and never came back up again. His body was never found. It created Australia's largest manhunt, or body hunt if you prefer, but it was never found again, unfortunately. But if I continue over to my right, you can see the real scope of Point Nepean National Park. If you ignore a few roads, a bus and a gun emplacement, it's a really good image of what this land would have looked like back in the day. And if you come back to more focused things, there is, if I zoom, little ship here, little ship, that is going through the heads. Now the heads are what we call the gap of water. So there's this piece of land here, look over in the distance, there's Queenscliff, the Geelong side, the Great Ocean Road sort of land. And in between is the piece of water called the heads. Now if I return back to Quarantine Station, the ships would have had to come through the heads, just like that ship there is doing, obviously in a different way. Come all the way through here, along this coastline, and land back at the Quarantine Station, just out of view in that direction. This is a really good location to talk about a few things. The gun emplacements, there's over 11 gun emplacements here at Point Nepean National Park. This was an active war zone. We believe that Melbourne was under great threat in World War I and World War II. We come into a sudden influx of heaps of money due to the gold rush in the gold rush times. And we believed that we were a real threat, we were real at risk. So we put in heaps and heaps of money for things like this. Big gun emplacements. Artillery station there and Lookout Point. This is a massive missile. I will even walk over to the sign to get a picture. Massive cannon launcher. It's fired out heaps of things. Really good image of how it looked here. Really hard to spot, covered with camouflage of course, all through here. And there is heaps of them scattered along this point. I'll film in better locations, but this is really good. Oh, I walked right through a puddle. Really good location to see the grand scope of things. Amazing. Our next location, a really good spot where you can see the heads. Now the southeast side of the Monty Peninsula ends right there. And this is the gap of water separating us from the Geelong Queenscliff side. And now, this is a real advantage if you think about it in a war sense. So when World War I and World War II were happening, they realised that geographically, this bay is a huge advantage because the only way you can get in and attack Melbourne is through that piece of water. So it's a real tricky piece of water to get through, and it protects Melbourne, which you probably can't see on camera, but it's directly behind my finger there. You can see the city skyline, which is pretty cool to see. So the idea was they were going to set up cannons here and the cannons on the other side. Pretty much the only entry point they were going to defend. Now, when the first cannons were installed, they realised there was a point where they couldn't reach in the middle from either side. There was a line where a ship, like that one, obviously an army ship, could thread the needle and get through. This is a real problem. What they decided to do, it's going to be quite hard for my camera to see, is build what's now known as Pope's Eye. You can't see it, but it's out there. Pope's Eye was planned to be a third gun emplacement. One here, one there, a third one out in the middle. The idea was to triangulate. So, if any ships did manage to thread the needle, be a third one waiting for them. Now that Pope's Eye gun emplacement is very cleverly placed. You cannot go to the left of it, you'll run aground where they'd be stuck and trapped anyway. You have to go to the right, and it's all positioned in the most advantageous way to fire upon any ships if it went past it. Now, the way they did it, the way they built it is sort of funny, very harsh. The way they decided to build it is this manpower. It was 4 boats, 8 men on each boat, and they would row out bluestone from Queenscliff over there. It's about a 5k paddle, nearly said 10k return, 5k paddle, rowing about a 1 ton block, and they rowed out about 13,000 tons worth of bluestone to create that little island. Now, it took them so long to row out all of that bluestone, understandably, that gun technology actually advanced where they could easily fire from here well past the other side and vice versa. So that third spot of triangulation became redundant. So after all those years of paddling, they said, look boys, you've done a great job, but you can just stop now. and they stopped with very tired arms, I'm sure, and they just let it go. Now, it's a rocks, massive rocks. If I zoom in over there, that little rock wall, imagine that times 100 with much bigger rocks, creating a little island. Now, it was left completely there, and it was a sort of blessing in disguise, really, because it became Victoria's smallest marine sanctuary. It is absolutely thriving out there with life. It's got heaps to see: seals, dolphins, any single fish you can imagine in Port Phillip Bay hangs out there, and they will come right up to your face. They're not really used to people there because it's a marine sanctuary. So you cannot go within 50 meters of it over 5 knots. You cannot fish. You cannot, all these regulations in place to protect it, which is really cool. It's a real treat. One positive side in all the difficulties that went on in making Point Nepean National Park. Alrighty, welcome to our final location for this video. I've spoken a lot about just how much effort and infrastructure they put in to the war and Point Nepean National Park, but it's been a little bit hard to see just in scale until this point. Now, I couldn't go any further that way if I tried. It's legit just water, but this is the tunnels. All of these through here are bomb-proof rooms. There's all tunnels through here. I'll walk through them in a moment, but these two cannons are of significance. Just wanted to walk past them and put them in front of mine as I talk about them. So, these cannons fired the first shots of World War I and World War II. Victoria, or Point Nepean National Park, holds the first shots of World War I. The story goes is a little bit different on who you ask. I've asked many people, but this is the most common thread I've found, is that a German ship was captured. It had very little artillery, and it was brought in to Victoria or Melbourne to help defend Melbourne. As I spoke about, they really wanted to defend Melbourne. Now, they brought it down here, and very sillily, very Australian-y, they forgot to take down the German flag and forgot to fly the Australian flag and let anyone know they were coming in. So, to the perspective of the people marked and stationed here at Point Nepean National Park, they just thought they were under attack. So they saw a German ship flying a German flag, no knowledge of it, sail through, and they fired at it. They fired a warning shot. They fired a warning shot 10 meters off their bow from this gunnery here. So this is gunnery. It's obviously closed down for construction reasons. It's a little bit unsafe, but that looks out into the bay. And it comes down. They fired a warning shot over their bow. They said, got on the radios, if you go any further, we're going to sink you. Now, no shots have been fired at that point. So even that warning shot did technically mark the start of World War I. It was the first shot technically fired, which is a little bit crazy. Cool picture of the ammunitions room. So they fired the first shot. After they fired it, they realised it was Australians. They flew up the Australian flag and said, don't fire anymore, it's us boys. And they continued on. The second shot that was fired here was for a very similar situation. They wanted to commemorate the fact that they fired the first shot. They they knew that we fired the first shot of World War I. And when it became time of World War II on the brink of happening, war very soon about to be officially announced, they decided that the exact same time of day they would fire the first shot of World War II to commemorate Point Nepean National Park firing the first shot of World War I. Very cheeky. All of this infrastructure put in place. There's more that way. Put in place, and we fired 2 shots. One being an Australian's, one being a practice shot straight into the ocean, doing absolutely nothing. A little bit ironic, a little bit funny, very appropriate for the Australian stereotypical manner, but it is true. And with that funny story, I'm going to conclude my video. Beautiful location, very thankful for this lovely day. I hope Tash or Carrie or Andrew, whoever's assessing this, you enjoy it, mark it well, and have a lovely day.